Again, and we're going to be doing a new topic, but we're going to start by doing something we've done in the past. What I want you to do is name all the constitutional reforms you can recall from the Blair government onwards date. Bonus is what I'm looking for. And to help us along, why don't you get yourself linked up to the Smiths Ask Me, which is ironic, of course, because you can't. Have a go at that now, please. Pause the slide. Well, I expect you did fantastically well. Here are the ones I was looking for, the ones in green. And why are these relevant? If you look at the House of Lords reform, you look at the evolution of power reform, you look at Supreme Court, these are all reforms that have impacted the institutions of the British government since 1997. And the dates are there. The C's and the P's are the basic things which are talking about what are the positive ones, what are the concerns, that come out of it as well. So, the other areas you can see there are civil liberties and access to information. We're talking about how individuals have gained powers through constitutional change as well. The interesting one, I guess, is electoral systems. We haven't actually had a change there, but we have had a development of electoral systems in devolved areas, which suggests the culture will change over time, which may bring greater pressure in the long term. And of course, the more recent ones, the Fixed Term Parliament Act and the Brexit vote. So, worth printing this slide out, I would suggest. But what we're going to be focusing on is this one, because this is our last area that we want to concentrate on, the judiciary and the UK Supreme Court. That's our plan. So how does that mean? Well, if you look at our political system, here we are, citizens over here, and how we relate to Parliament and the executive, the government. The Supreme Court, interestingly enough, a little bit of an add-on, taken out of the House of Lords, and now an independent body over here. And what it does, just the legality of the government's actions and devolved government actions when working with their citizens. Another check and balance, separate, you would think, from the other two key institutions. But remember, we live in a country where parliamentary sovereignty is the key. So this is a real power body here. How is that relevant? Well, when we look at today's lesson, we're worrying about the Supreme Court, we're worrying about the judiciary, we're looking at the overview of the specification. What is the Supreme Court? What's its composition? What does it do? And then we'll be moving on to some of the concepts related to including judicial independence. These are the next few lessons as we go through the different parts of the specification, looking at judicial review, working towards another essay. Down here are the journals that I want you to read. And I've sent you these electronically by PDF, so you should be able to read them okay. Over here are the website reading that I need you to do. A lot of the initial stuff has to be preparational reading, so you get the context, building your schema. Okay, what does that look like in terms of our specification? Well, if we look up here, we can see that the bits in red are the things we're going to focus on today: judicial independence and impartiality, separation of powers, I've already mentioned. Come down here, the composition of the judiciary and the appointments process, allowing us to answer these questions. How was the Supreme Court created? What's its composition? And how independent is it? Okay? Our aim is obviously over the next 4 lessons to go through all those different areas. First task, click onto this link. It will take you to this page and allow you to answer these questions. Okay, so we know what the Supreme Court is, what it does, who's on it, and how they appoint it. Okay, there's your task. Should take you, 10 minutes or so. Get yourself a Word document sorted out. Go! Okay, once you've done that, definitely worth reading these 2 articles. Why? Because we want to be able to analyze and evaluate the composition of the judiciary and the appointments process. Why? Well, actually, it's more relevant to next year when we look at the US Supreme Court and how it's appointed and how it actually is composed. And will allow us with a fairly effective contrast. To help us here, Lady Hale, who was president of the Supreme Court, talks about gender parity and the significance of the composition. She also talks here about how the justices are appointed, and that's really, really significant. Okay, and we're talking about the nature of the court and whether or not Parliament should be involved in the appointments process. Now, we're talking about judicial independence. We have to understand what the term actually means. So it's a consequence of the separation of powers. It means the judiciary should be independent of the other 2 institutions, branches of government. There's been some controversy about that, of course, because during the Brexit debate, the courts were considered by the government, especially, as being a little bit too remain in their attitudes. Certainly, they would challenge the government's actions during this period. We need to know how independent the court really is. And to do that, needs a little bit of research on your part. So you need to get this article, which is by Odell, and have a read of it, making a list of how the UK Supreme Court is and isn't independent, just to give you a full understanding of that. Do that task now. Okay. Well done, everyone, so far. And this is our final preparation task I need you to make sure it's done for Friday. This is by an article by Andrew Lesueur. And what it'll do is give us an indication about judicial review, which is essentially the essence of everything we want to talk about in regards to judicial power. So here are some set questions. And you can see by the bits in purple, I've given you some guidance about where they exist in this article. Okay, so use them as your guide. The aim is that eventually we'll be able to answer this question here. 3 ways in which judicial review can occur. We need to understand that. There are a number of different ways. You'll be able to find them here, but we'll talk about that in the next lesson. So lots of preparation, puts the groundwork in place, and then we can be successful. Well done today, guys. I'll see you next lesson.